I cannot vouch for the fact that this story actually happened, but it was told to me as real when I lived in a Yakut village. A group of archaeology students from Yakutsk State University in the 60s went on a summer expedition to one of the remote areas of the republic. There they excavated and studied graves in an ancient cemetery. At first the students were scared, but then they got used to it. Then one of them suggested that on a day off they go to a large clearing where there was a lake nearby, in which they could bathe away from the eyes of the villagers. The problem was that at the edge of the clearing was the grave of the local shaman, whom the villagers revered very much. Some students discouraged their friends from this idea, but that was still the time when urban youth, as a rule, did not believe in the supernatural. In the end, there were 8 to 9 people who wanted to go on the hike. On the appointed day they arrived by car and settled down by the lake. They played ball, bathed, and drank. After drinking heavily, they all went to look for the shaman's grave and quickly found it, as it was in plain sight. It wasn't even really a grave, but a so-called Arangas. The corpse was in a wooden enclosed mini crypt on the surface. This is how Yakuts buried shamans before Christianity was adopted. One of the students had the idea to open the Arangas and look at the remains. After all, are we archaeologists or what? The girls talked the guys out of it, but they still did a lot of things at the grave that they shouldn't have done. They made noise, littered, etc. Especially distinguished were 2 drunken guys who just went to urinate on the ground by the Arangas before leaving. They went back to the big communal tent by the lake where they went to bed. During the night, they woke up to a real storm outside. They did not dare to go outside in such weather. They just lay there, talking and listening to the terrible noise of the wind. Suddenly behind this noise they heard someone walking in circles around the tent. All the members of the expedition were in the tent, and the clearing was quite far from the village. The bravest shouted who was there, but there was no answer. Soon it got worse. Someone was pounding the tent with terrible force from outside. The dense fabric was almost tearing under the blows. The girls began to scream, and then a loud male voice in the Yakut language ordered the 2 guys who had urinated on the shaman's grave to come out of the tent, calling them by name. They, of course, started to resist, but the frightened friends literally pushed them out of the tent by force, despite all their protests. After leaving the tent, the guys stood up and looked around. They could see nothing. It was dark, the wind was raging, grass and leaves were flying in the air. After standing for a few minutes and freezing, they returned to the tent. All their friends and girlfriends were lying on their seats, dead, with faces contorted with horror. Such a sight made the boys somewhat dazed, and they began to scream and run in circles. At last they came to their senses, got into the car and drove back to the village, where they reported what had happened. The further fate of these 2 guys is unknown. It is only known that there was no storm in the area that night, and the investigation questioned the guys for a long time, but in the end they were released, as it turned out that their friends all died of a heart attack.